The USA has given the Ukrainian Armed Forces the right to hit military targets on Russian territory with American weapons. However, The Guardian writes that there is a limitation in terms of firing range. The defense forces will be able to use HIMARS, GMLRS missile systems and artillery exclusively to hit targets in the areas that border Kharkiv region.
I received this message from my military. I can't give you details about it. I want to see it in practice, but it is a step forward towards this goal that we discussed earlier, to make it possible for us to protect our people who live in the settlements near the border.
Washington's decision was a reaction to Russian army's offensive in Kharkiv region and massive shelling of residential areas. According to BBC, the Joe Biden administration is now simultaneously trying to strengthen the defense capabilities of the Ukrainian Armed Forces and prevent the escalation of the conflict.
The Russian army is conducting an offensive towards Kharkiv from its own territory, and until recently it was immune to strikes by the Ukrainian Armed Forces with American weapons. Therefore, the Russians could set up warehouses, headquarters and other military facilities in relative proximity to the front. Now, if Ukraine starts shelling them, the Russian army will probably have to change its rear supply system, complicating and overloading logistics, from BBC News Russian service publication. The Kremlin now believes that it is fighting a war with the West, not with Ukraine, and in that sense any restrictions that European or American politicians insist on are meaningless.
Germany has also lifted the ban on strikes on military facilities on Russian territory. Government speaker explained that the decision was taken after the Russian army became more active in the Kharkiv region. According to Bild, among the types of German weapons that are supposed to be used to hit Russian targets are self-propelled howitzer, Panzerhaubitze 2000 and armored HIMARS 2 multiple rocket launchers.
We are convinced that under international law, Ukraine has the right to defend itself against these attacks. It can also use weapons supplied for this purpose in accordance with its international legal obligations, including those supplied by us. Stefan Heberstedt, German government spokesman, from the press release of the federal government.
The Kremlin is already sounding the alarm over Ukraine's new military capabilities. Medvedev, deputy chairman of the Russian Security Council, accused NATO of escalating the conflict. He threatened to use nuclear weapons and strike Ukraine's allies.
There is every reason to believe that the Kremlin will now face the consequences that are inevitable if Ukraine starts hitting the remote elements of the Russian military infrastructure. So it's understandable why Medvedev is threatening. It's understandable why there are rumblings in Moscow about the use of nuclear weapons, but at the same time few people believe that the Kremlin would dare to actually use nuclear weapons at this stage of the war.
NATO Secretary General noted that Moscow has been threatening the West since 2022, and this time it is not something fundamentally new. Stoltenberg is convinced Kyiv should strike Russia to defend itself. The Ukrainian army also has the right to strike Belarus if there are any Russian military targets there, said Lithuanian Foreign Minister Gabrielius Landsbergis. Reported by Anastasia Tarnavska, Nikita Skoblikov, UATV News.